Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday afternoon. Hope yours is going well. We've got another Seahawks video to get to today, but first we just hit 2,330 subscribers to the YouTube channel. I want to give a shout out to all the subscribers, and as always, special tip of the cap goes to the channel members, especially elite channel members, HaWKxXA, Brandon Mikel, Rip, Scott Todd, Hasher for MVP, VGK Tiger 75, John Harper, and Salacious Crumb. All right, it's time to take a look at another offensive coordinator candidate for the Seattle Seahawks for the upcoming 2021 NFL season. We're going to be taking a look at another feasible, likely, and maybe even new clubhouse favorite offensive coordinator candidate today, because in the last couple days, this guy has emerged as somebody that the team really likes and somebody who may very well want to be here. So, like yesterday, we're going to be taking a look at a candidate who was, until very recently, an NFL head coach, somebody who did have some success as an NFL head coach, and somebody who probably wants to be a head coach again. So you could say this is another guy who is overqualified, another guy who probably would not be here very long if we did land him. And yeah, let's just go ahead and jump right in, and we're talking about Doug Pederson. Doug Pederson, former NFL quarterback, former Andy Reid coaching tree branch, I guess you could call him, and former Eagles head coach. So what can we say about Doug Pederson? Well, he's much in the same boat as Anthony Lynn. They both just got fired. They both had pretty decent half-decade-long runs on their teams. Doug Pederson obviously won a Super Bowl. Anthony Lynn never got close. But they both had decent success as head coaches. Pederson a little bit more, maybe. But regardless, there's a lot in common when it comes to those two guys in terms of they both are of similar age, and they both probably want to be using a coordinator job as a jump-off point to become head coaches again. So, Doug Pederson, what can we say about his resume over the last 10-plus years in the NFL? Well, first, he started the decade, or last decade, as an offensive quality coordinator, quality control coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, he came from the Andy Reid coaching tree. He was the quality control coach for the Eagles under Andy Reid in 2010, and the 2010 Eagles had a great offense. They were third in the league with 27.5 points per game. That was the Eagles team that almost produced MVP Michael Vick. They went 10-6, made the playoffs, lost the first round, but their offense was very good, and they had a top 10 passing attack. It was 244 yards per game, 9th in the league, and they had an elite rushing attack, 5th in the league, 145 yards a game. So there is some stuff that needs to be mentioned when we're talking about Doug Pederson's work as an Eagles and Chiefs coach before he became a head coach, but we'll get to that at the end of this. So suffice to say, the Eagles offense was stellar in 2010. In 2011 and 2012, he became the Eagles quarterback coach, and the results were not very good in the interest of full transparency. His first year, the team went 8-8. This was the Dream Team Eagles. He had some issues with personnel this year, maybe. The players did not play very well. They had a bit of an issue keeping their quarterbacks healthy. They went back and forth a little bit between Michael Vick and Vince Young. However, as a quarterback coach, it's your job to get whoever the quarterback is playing well, and while the Eagles did score a healthy number of points and amass a healthy number of yards, they turned the ball over way too much, and that's a big reason why they ended up going 8-8. So despite scoring almost 25 points a game, which was 8th in the NFL, their 25 interceptions kind of undoes all the other good stuff that we're talking about here. 22 touchdowns is okay. 4,300 yards is pretty good as well. The completion percentage, obviously not good, less than 60%. 78.3 QB rating is pretty bad. It all really comes back to just these turnovers. And yeah, this was not a great year for Doug Pederson as a quarterback coach. The next year, the bottom falls out for the Eagles offense. They go 4-12. They're one of the worst teams in the league. They score 17.5 points a game, 29th, one of the worst offenses in the league. And Eagles QBs did not really play much better. Collectively, you had Michael Vick at QB, and you had a little bit of Nick Foles at QB, threw for 4,100 yards almost, 18 touchdowns, 15 picks. Completion percentage below 60 again, and a QB rating that is basically identical to the previous year. So, pretty rough run of QB coaching for Doug Pederson. At this point, however, he did earn a promotion, moving with Andy Reid over to the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs' offense was pretty good these 3 years. They had 3 winning seasons, 11-5, 9-7, 11-5. They made the playoffs a couple times. And they were able to accomplish some pretty respectable things with a quarterback who was a notorious game manager and checkdown artist in Alex Smith. This first year, they actually had the number 6 offense in the league, 27 points a game, despite only 209 pass yards a game, which was 24th in the league, because they had a top 10 rushing offense. Yeah, keep that rushing offense in mind as we go forward. That may be coming up couple times in the future. The next year, the team falls off. They go 9-7, 22 points a game, 16th, which is average, obviously. They had one of the worst passing attacks in the league, less than 200 yards a game, 29th. And again, despite that, they did manage to have a very respectable running game this year, 120 yards per game, which was 10th. And his final year as the offensive coordinator in Kansas City, they went 11-5, 25.3 points a game, which was top 10. A bottom 3 passing attack, only 203 yards a game, but a top 6 rushing offense, 128 yards per game. So overall, the results from his 6 years as an Andy Reid understudy are mixed. There is some good stuff here. The offense in 2010 was phenomenal. The offense in 2011 was not bad, although the quarterback play was pretty bad, which is a problem when you're the quarterback coach. The Kansas City offense, while Doug Pederson was there, was very respectable. It was anywhere from average to very good. And they did this despite having a very limited quarterback who did not do all that much for the Chiefs, and they mostly rode their rushing attack to tremendous success. However, good or bad, everything you can say about Doug Pederson as an offensive coach these 6 seasons right here, Eagles and Chiefs, you have to remember that he was under Andy Reid. And I think we all understand that if Andy Reid is your head coach, he's running your offense. He's responsible for the stuff that happens on your offense, not the offensive coordinator. So whatever credit or blame you want to give to Doug Pederson for what happened over these 6 years, it probably can't be a ton, because Andy Reid runs the offenses when he's the head coach. And while Doug Pederson probably had something to do with the offense's success or lack thereof these 6 seasons, we all know Andy Reid's the one running the show. With that in mind, let's take a look at what he did as a head coach away from Andy Reid. He was the Eagles head coach for 5 seasons, and we should be able to learn some interesting stuff from what he did here. So let's start with 2016. He drafts Carson Wentz, and under the guidance of Carson Wentz playing most of the season, the Eagles were a slightly below average team, 7-9, 23 points a game, which was average, so not a bad offense. They were 24th in passing yards per game, 224 yards. They had a solid rushing attack, though, 113 rush yards per game, which is very solid. The next year is the year that made Doug Pederson a Philadelphia legend, and will guarantee that whatever happens from here on out, Philly's going to love this guy forever. 13-3, number 1 seed in the NFC, and he did it having to play a few games with his backup QB. 29 points per game almost, 3rd in the NFL, one of the best offenses, a solid passing game, 13th in the league, 234 yards, an elite rushing attack, 132 yards, 3rd in the NFL, so very, very dominant rushing attack and a solid passing attack. Creates one of the best offenses in the league. Now, at this point, the Eagles had won the Super Bowl, so they lost some of their brain trust. Frank Reich went to Indianapolis, John DeFilippo went to Minnesota, and a lot of people will tell you that the success the Eagles had in 2017 can be credited in large part to those two. So let's see how true that is as we go forward into Doug Pederson's future years in Philadelphia. 2018. Eagles, decent team, 9-7, made the playoffs, won a playoff game, the double doinker. 23 points per game, which was slightly below average. Not bad, but not particularly good. Obviously, the Eagles had some player issues this season. They lost their quarterback, and had to go once again with Nick Foles, their backup QB, for the end of the season in the playoffs. Their passing yards per game was quite good, 7th in the NFL, 267 yards, very solid. Their rushing yards per game, however, were near the bottom of the league, which is very rare for offenses that Doug Pederson finds himself around. This is really the first time in his career he had even a below-average rushing attack with the offense that he was associated with, 28th in the NFL. The next year, 2019, they went 9-7 again, and the offense picked it up a little bit. They actually had a healthy season from Carson Wentz, 24 points a game, which was 12th in the league, solid season. Passing yards per game was 240, which is 11th, so above average, and also 121 rushing yards per game, which was above average. So everything about the offense this year was above average. And given the fact that the Eagles really kind of ran out of receivers as the season went on, and also running backs, and, well, everybody on that offense couldn't stay healthy, this is pretty good. This is nice work from Doug Pederson. And then we have the year that got Doug Pederson fired. They went 4-11-1, one of the worst teams in the league, picking in the top 6. Their offense was one of the worst in the NFL, 21 points a game, 26th in the NFL. So, obviously, you can put it on Carson Wentz if you want to, because he was just a bad player this year. You can put it on their complete lack of weapons at receiver. You can put it on whatever you want to put it on, but it was a terrible offense. 208 passing yards a game, right near the bottom of the NFL. Still a good rushing attack, however. 127 rush yards per game, which was 9th in the NFL. Hey, it's really tough to keep the rushing attack of these Doug Pederson teams down, it seems like, even when they're a terrible team. And that gets us to the present day. So, as a head coach, there can be no doubt that Doug Pederson did have some great success, especially in 2017. If you take 2017 away, however, you come up with some results that are pretty mediocre and lackluster and just kind of forgettable. They can be excused given the personnel he was working with. Again, the last 2 years, the Eagles have not really had any receivers to work with. He was working with a rookie QB who turned the ball over a lot in 2016. I understand all of that. He had to play a lot of games with backup QBs because Carson Wentz had an issue staying healthy. However you want to slice it, this is the resume. You may interpret it how you will. So here's my final scores for Doug Pederson as an offensive coordinator candidate. My feasibility score for Doug Pederson is 9 out of 10. There is a chance that there is a team out there, a bottom feeder team, a very bad team, that would take him as a head coach because he has been successful, and certain teams might feel like Doug Pederson getting fired after a bad season is the best they can do. Maybe a team like Houston would consider taking him on as the head coach because they're just desperate for some level of competency at that position, but it's unlikely. I think it's very, very likely that Doug Pederson has to take a coordinator job, and I think he would love to come to Seattle and try to rebuild his reputation a little bit. Fit with Pete Carroll, I gave him a 9 out of 10. He has a tremendous history of overseeing tremendous rushing offenses. If you look at what he's done in his career, top 5 rushing offense in Philly in 2010, top 5 again in 2017 in Philly as the head coach. He's had other years where he was in the top 10. He's had a couple years where he was 11th, and only one really bad year as a rushing coach. And he also has some creative schemes when it comes to running the ball that I like. And Carroll, I think, would get along phenomenally well with Doug Pederson if he became the offensive coordinator. And the nice thing is, me saying that is not really an insult, because I think that Doug Pederson's fit with the modern NFL is pretty good. It's 7 out of 10 for me. He's had some success, and I think he has good ideas. He's aggressive on 4th down. I like that kind of stuff. He's somebody who is able to embrace the passing attack and go for big plays and move the ball, push the ball down the field hard when he needs to. That being said, he's only had one great year that can be attributed in large part to him, which is 2017. When he lost some of his assistants, things got mediocre to slightly above average very quickly. But that can be attributed to the personnel he had to work with. So my overall score for Doug Pederson, how excited I would be if we got him as our coordinator, would be an 8 out of 10. It's a low 8 out of 10, but of the 3 guys we've looked at so far, he's my favorite. He has some lackluster results on his own. Last year, very obviously a chief example. I like his concepts, though. I like the way he looks at the game. I like the way he approaches things like fourth down. I like the way he looks at the game of football. And he's overqualified because he served as a Super Bowl winning head coach just 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. What do you guys think about Doug Pederson? We can talk about it later in stream if you want to, but my evaluation is that of the likely candidates that we've gone over so far, Doug Pederson would be the most interesting. I'm not completely in love with him. I have questions about him, but I like some of the stuff he brings to the table, and I think he would fit well with Carroll while also being a good fit for this personnel and a good fit for what modern NFL teams need to do. Peace out. Go Hawks. See you guys in stream tonight.